fight fans, welcome back to the Casuals. I'm Alec, alongside me is co-host Carlos, and in this video, we'll go ahead and be recapping the main event, Canelo Alvarez versus Billy Joe Saunders. Let's get right into it. Man, Saturday night, what a great night for boxing. You had the best fighting the best, all Canelo's belts on the line versus Billy Joe Saunders and the WBO belt. Texas, 70,000 plus fans. It was just a fantastic experience. What did you think about the main event, Carlos?
It was a great fight. Very entertaining. Crowd was into it. The atmosphere in AT&T Stadium was amazing. This is what boxing really can be. All the chips fall correctly and all the dominoes fall correctly. It's the best going against the best. Back from during COVID events where there was no crowd and there was just a piece of the fight that we were watching missing. Even though it's still very entertaining to see two very skilled fighters go against each other in a ring or whether it's an octagon. But the crowd is just a whole nother level. We saw that on Saturday night. It was great.
Couldn't agree with you more. Seeing Canelo's performance, another fantastic finish, round 8. He showed great power, great speed. Billy Joe did his thing in there. I was surprised even with the 22-foot ring, he didn't use it more to his advantage. He kind of stayed in the pocket in front of Canelo most times. I found that a little bit odd. I mean, and again, Billy's never fought in a 22-foot ring, but don't tell him that. We saw some great talent from Canelo and just another dominant performance. I don't know what his game plan was, where he was kind of gonna figure out Billy the first couple rounds, which he did, and at least rounds 1 through 2, and then round 3 and 4 he started to find him a little bit more. Round 5, Billy had some confidence. He had his hands down, started slipping some shots, got involved with the crowd. Round 6 was Canelo. Round 7 was a toss-up, could get on either or. And round 8, just that devastating uppercut. Oof, hard to watch. But throughout the fight, Canelo's landing some uppercuts to begin with, but throughout the fight, you saw Billy Joe, he has this tendency, this little habit of every time he would try to slip a shot, he would always lean to the left, not that much to the right. And I guess Canelo caught that on, because even when Canelo throws some feints, Billy would evade, but he evaded while ducking to the left. Lo and behold, 8th round, not only does Canelo land a hell of an uppercut, but Billy ducks to the left. All his forward momentum, he literally ducking his face into Canelo's shot, which makes it the impact twice as hard. Fracture orbital. You saw him get on the bench after the 8th round, his mouth wide open, and he's shaking his head no. I think I counted 2 or 3 times. Mark Tibbs, his trainer, I don't know what he says exactly, but I'm pretty sure he asked him, "Hey, are you okay?" Billy shakes his head, and probably next one is, "Hey, can you see out of that eye?" No, again, some back and forth, and it's over. Canelo's standing up, he's cheering with the crowd. A crazy finish, a dominant performance, still a great fight from Billy Joe Saunders. I enjoyed it very much. How would you rate that fight, Carlos?
From all the boxing that I've seen, that fight, for me, let's give it a solid 8 out of 10. Very entertaining, start to finish. Billy deserved to be in there. Canelo, the question was answered for the 8 rounds that they fought. He played his game plan for as long as he could, kept the movement up, was very fast, had great head movement, made Canelo miss a lot, and he landed some pretty good shots of his own. But at the end of the day, Canelo, being the bull that he is, he was from the beginning landing huge power body shots that would get the crowd riled up. Pretty impressive to see also Canelo's defensive game also making Billy miss. But just from the start, man, something that Eddie Atlas says, Canelo was just putting water in the basement from the start of the fight to the end, just constantly tagging him to the body, getting Billy more tired round through round. And that's something I didn't notice from the first viewing. Something that I saw after I watched the fights many times over was that Billy was actually getting tired, and more than usual, right? Because Billy's known for taking fights to the distance. Billy's known for his cardio not really being a factor, because he has to take it to the distance essentially. But it's a whole nother ball game when you have a very fast and accurate power puncher like Canelo constantly landing body shots on you. So we saw that play out through the fight. Like you said, Canelo was trying to figure out Billy Joe throughout the early rounds. Billy Joe won a few rounds. I had it scored 5-3 after my rewatches. During the fight, I thought it was 4-4. I thought it was even. But rewatching the 4th round, I was initially saying that, you know, that uppercut, the beautiful uppercut that Canelo lands that almost takes out Billy's mouthpiece almost didn't seem like enough to give him the round, but that was just me in the moment watching that. Once I replayed it, I was actually watching a lot of the strikes that Billy threw, and he actually missed a lot. Canelo made him miss, and Canelo was landing the bigger shots, the big uppercut that we saw, and I believe he took that round. So it was a 5-3. The judges, you know, two of them scored it 6-2, one of them scored it 5-3. It is what it is. I felt like it was a little bit more competitive than what those two judges scored it. I don't really believe it was a 6-2. I believe you got to give credit to Billy for his defense, for him sticking that jab and also catching Canelo with a lot of good hits. But other than that, you know, the final blow was also interesting to see in real time because we were so hyped for the fight. The final blow happens and it's over in an instant, and it was kind of anticlimactic to see it end that way because we're like, man, we were kind of expecting Billy to come out on the 9th and okay, how is he going to react? Is this going to be, you know, a very Amir Khan-esque finish in the 9th round, or was Billy going to come back and do something, you know, miraculous? You know, something amazing was going to happen in that 9th. But as we all know, Billy got more injured or was more hurt than we saw with the naked eye. Beneath that horrible bruise that developed right after that shot was landed. By the way, if a bruise develops that quickly after a punch is landed like that, it usually means that it's a broken bone. And turns out it is. You know, the day after, come to find out that he had multiple fractures around his eye, and that is extremely dangerous, not just for a fighter, but a person in general. Because once you have fractures in your bones right here, the bone right behind your eye, that fractures, it could potentially cut your eye muscles that basically move your eye left and right, up and down. You definitely don't want to send your fighter out like that, potentially go blind, let alone, you know, continue their career in boxing, and let alone, you know, sending them out there just for machismo's sake.
Almost
I believe
a career-ending injury.
Yeah, I believe Mark Tibbs made the right call. The corner made the right call and said, hey, no, it's over. They saw that what was going to happen in the next round. They saw the writing on the wall that Canelo was probably going to hurt him a lot more. So it was a fantastic job by the corner. It was a fantastic fight. And man, credit Canelo with, my opinion, being the #1 pound-for-pound fighter in boxing right now. He's pretty much almost completely unified the 168 division. What's next is, you know, now he has to fight Caleb Plant for the IBF belt, which at this point is a formality. But then when it was all said and done, or even in that eighth round, you saw Canelo, once you had him on the ropes, he started riling up the crowd. He started getting the crowd into it, you know, moving his hands up, and it was pandemonium after that. And it was crazy to see. After it was finished, during the press conference, you had a WBO middleweight champion, Demetrius Andrade, go to the press conference and try to start some mess with Canelo, saying, hey, you know, when can we work something out? When can we start something? And Canelo is just, he kind of shows a little bit of his personality there and talks some shit and says, hey, man, you fight with nobody, man. You fight with nobody. You're a horrible fighter.
Horrible fighter, man. Horrible.
Oh, man. And then he triggers Demetrius Andrade's dad/trainer. And oh, man, they get into it after that. And kind of a different side to see compared to Canelo's, you know, other fights where he's a little bit more reserved. Now he was even asked during the press conference, like, wow, you know, now we're seeing your personality. It's a little bit more fun to witness. Maybe this will make you into an even bigger star. And he's like, hey, man, at some point they talk so much shit about me. I got to say something, right? Yeah. This is the time. But yeah, great event, great fight. Props to Billy Joe for showing up and performing to the best of his abilities. And I'm thankful that the corner stopped it when they did, because I do want to see more of Billy Joe in the future.
Wow. Great take, man. I really wish if Billy Joe didn't get hit in the 8th round, didn't suffer the broken orbital, I wonder what happened when Mark Tibbs and Ben Davison would have told him, like, hey, man, it's going into the 9th. We need you to turn up this gear. It's now or never. You know, I had a 5-3 as well, heading into the 9th.
Right.
I'm sorry, after Dave, and he's not that far off. Like he's still in it. And Billy Joe, if you've seen his interviews leading up to this main event, he's always said, "I got that gypsy blood in me. I'm gonna find a way." It would have been fun. You're right. He did look a little bit tired going into the 8th, but hey man, you can only take so much damage from Canelo. But I would love to see what would have happened if he didn't get hit and see maybe pull some tricks up his sleeve and tagging up Canelo. He was landing some shots. He did make Canelo miss sometimes, but Canelo also made Billy miss. It was a fun back and forth fight. One thing quick I just want to touch up on is for all those casuals out there, all those haters for Billy saying, "Oh, he quit on the stool. He doesn't have gypsy heart. This guy's undefeated, this and that." Like you said in your take, it's a fractured orbital. So you have no sight. His good eyes mess up. You have no sight. You can't defend yourself, and your lead jab is gone. And you want to go out there one more round with the toughest 168-pound super middleweight champ, and you want to chance that? No, absolutely not. Ben Davison,
live to fight another day.
Exactly. Billy Joe's only 32. He did have surgery. It did go successful. He even said, and it's on social media, "Thanks for your concerns. I'll be back." Like he's not. No one wants to go out like that. You know, this guy has family. He has kids. He fights for them ultimately, and he wants to make them proud. I do see Billy Joe coming back from this. Maybe after a year or so, when you fully recovered. See, there's a lot of options still for Billy Joe. He's only 32, like I said. You know, Mark Tibbs and Ben Davison made the right call. They saved their fighter. They preserved him, lived to fight another day. So, what's next? Canelo Alvarez is going after that last belt. He's going after that last Infinity Stone. Caleb Plant, I wish he was in the crowd. After that dominant performance, I don't know if you've seen a Caleb Plant fight. It's not that fun. I don't see him doing anything special, taking Canelo out. If he was in the stands, he should have brought the belt in the press conference. "Here you go, Canelo. I don't want any smoke. Take it from me. Have a good day." I mean, you look around September time, this is going to be his 3rd fight this year. He wants to stay active. He beat Count Smith in December last year. He beat Yildirim. He just beat Billy Joe. And if he beats Caleb Plant in September, who's stopping him from doing another fight in December? Who knows? All right, so in September time, Carlos, he's going to fight Caleb Plant, that last belt. How do you think it's going to play out?
Like
That's
I said,
a chance, right?
it's just a formality. You know, no disrespect to Caleb and what he's done to earn that IBF belt. But as far as Caleb Plant's concerned, he has no business being in the ring with Canelo. He doesn't have the experience. He doesn't have the skill. That's it. Cut and dry. It's no disrespect to him. It's just there's levels to this, and Canelo is not just a football field, but he's a stratosphere above Caleb Plant. You know, this would, if by miracle, and I'm talking real miracle, if Caleb were to win against Canelo, that would be the biggest upset in boxing ever in history. So it's, like I said, Canelo's going to win that fight, and then the real fight's going to happen.
Yeah, I don't know what the odds are on that, but I'm pretty sure plus 45 to 5,000 Plant underdog.
I mean, it'll be like Yildirim.
A long shot, exactly.
Canelo was a minus 4,999 favorite. It'll be almost the same exact type of numbers with Caleb Plant.
So we talked about the fight. What's happening next for Canelo Alvarez? Obviously September, he's going out for a last belt, unified division, doing GOAT things, showing greatness again. I want to talk about after he fights Caleb Plant. Canelo still has a lot of options left on the table. So the first thing I want to talk about is Canelo and Errol Spence Jr. Errol Spence, as we know, big Texas fan base. He's from Texas. He has been in multiple interviews and Canelo's saying, "Yeah, I'll fight Errol Spence Jr. if he moves up to 160. Canelo's willing to shed those 8 extra pounds going back to middleweight. Spence move up to middleweight. That is an interesting fight. He also has what the fight fans want to see, the Gennady 3, the trilogy. Finally put it to bed. But Canelo did say, if I fight Gennady 3, Gennady's going to have to move up to 168, which Gennady Golovkin, great middleweight. That's mainly the main weight class he's fought his whole career. Canelo at 168, I don't know, man. He just looks so damn good and unstoppable. even Gennady at 168. It's just, I don't know if Gennady can hang with Canelo, honestly. Obviously he can. He lasted 2 fights. They went the distance both times, but I don't know. That is an option as well. He can also defend one of his belts at 168, maybe take on an up-and newcomer. David Benavidez is a good young prospect, comes into mind. Maybe Jamal Charlo grows some balls and he moves up to super middleweight, challenge Canelo. We'll have to see. A lot of options for Canelo. As far as Billy Joe, like I said earlier, it's a very serious injury. Take at least a year off. Around that time, maybe Gennady does decide to move up to 168. And Billy Joe's next fight, his fight from an injury, Gennady Golovkin at super middleweight. That'd be a great one.
Yeah, I agree. I would love to see all those fights. I think it should be, as far as the Errol Spence fight, I think that is a big money fight. As far as competition, big pay-per-view for sure. I don't think Errol Spence will fare well against Canelo. Errol Spence is a great boxer, but I think you can compare him to Billy in his style, his output, but just like Billy, I feel like the power just isn't there. We saw it with him against Mikey Garcia. It went the full 12 rounds, and even though he was battering Mikey Garcia, he couldn't get him out of there. So I don't know how that's going to fare. I still would love to see that fight because Errol Spence, he's coming up. He could still improve, and I think that would still be a good fight. I would love to see the rubber match with Triple G at 168 and possibly going on to also challenge Demetrius Andrade and shut him up. Maybe see that.
Yeah.
Or, like you said, up and comers, just defend your belt, kind of cruise for a little bit until someone worthy comes back, or Billy Joe rattles off a few wins and he builds some momentum. And possibly, I would love to see a rematch with Billy Joe, honestly. Even though it ended the way it did, Billy Joe put on a good fight. It was very entertaining.
Yeah, out of all the super middleweights, Billy Joe, even though it only lasted 8 rounds, yeah, he gave the best performance. Which,
by the way, shout out to one of our viewers, Danny G. He called the fight literally on point. Inside 8 rounds was his call for Canelo. On point. Big respect.
Mad respect. Man knows boxing.
So that's our takes on the boxing fight. We really appreciate you guys watching. And let us know how you feel, how the fight went, what you want Canelo to do going forward. Also, hit us up on our socials. We got IG and Twitter. If you want to hit me up or hit him up on some fight questions or some content ideas, I'm always, for the fights, UFC cards, big boxing fights, whenever we make videos for them, I'll always be live tweeting them, and I'll try to score them as best as I can. Not a judge, but I like to have fun and put my opinion out there, put my picks out there. You can interact with us. It'd be great to have you there. And thanks for watching the video. If you could like and subscribe, I'd really appreciate that. On top of that, what I would like to do is you guys put down some question comments. I can feature you in the next video. Ask us questions about future fights or whatever, as long as it pertains to the combat sports world. And we could possibly feature the top 5 comments. Appreciate you guys watching, and see you on the next video. Take it easy, guys.